All right. Are we on? Okay, we're on. All right. Welcome to the Shop Class Podcast. Thank you so much for coming in. And tonight we got a musical guest. No, I wish that would be awesome. It's like Saturday Night Live. Dear friend Mark Balzarette. He's also a shop teacher at the college level and at the high school in the same space, but also in his personal life, he's a machinist and also an artist. He was a photographer, and he's got plays a mean guitar, surf music, which is what I call surf music. It is awesome. And we got some new people, but let's say hi to the regulars first. We got Duke in the house, and Matt has run off to take care of the kiddies, and David, and we got Kirk. David, where are you from?
Okay, I'm originally from Massachusetts, but I reside now down in South Carolina. And it's funny, I met Mark years ago at a IDSA, Industrial Designers Society of America, meeting at Rhode Island School of Design. So we've been like brothers ever since. And so it's really a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for coming in. And Kirk,
Thanks.
where are you from?
I'm from Bloomsburg, up in Pennsylvania, basically the middle of the state, and teaching a high school. And it's a small school. We graduate about 100 kids a year. So I'm sort of the show at the high school level. So I teach a variety of different subject matters, from CAD to robotic design, you name it. I touch into it in some way, shape, or form.
Wow, you're kind of like Barbercheck. You're sort of the guy, you know.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Kirk ran the robotics event at Knoebels, the combat robots. So I emailed him a couple weeks ago because I was interested in that, and then I sent him the link for the Shop Class Podcast if you wanted to check it out. But yeah, it'd be cool to have him on highlighted. You know, see how the combat robots work.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's great. And we got Tim in the house. He's a regular. Tim's got a new background. He's looking different here.
Yeah, he's out of the basement.
I'm out of the basement.
Yeah, who let you out of the basement?
I'm in my front room.
Oh my God, I thought it was a background.
No, there's my neighbor. There's my neighbor across the street.
You could sell that background, dude. That's so funny. All right, well, basically, yeah. So yeah, tonight's guest is Mark. And just starting out, how I met Mark was through. I started working at the college as kind of a sort of an adjunct professor position, but it was like a consultant for their electric car program. And I saw that there was this guy in the shop, and I was like, oh man, this is the guy. Cause like, I can't get this car done without the shop guy. So, I started buddy with him, and then turns out he rides motorcycles, and he's got a machine shop, and he's got I have a similar, actually what started was I had a similar machine as him, except his is all nicely restored and mine is still sitting here not moving. And and so that started the conversation, and then a million times over his house, like, hey, can you fix this one thing, or can you just machine this one thing for me? And we became friends. So he's been trying to get rid of me ever since, but he can't shake me. So here I am, and I actually dragged him on the podcast. Yeah. Now, so Mark, let's start with what you're currently teaching. Like, what do you teach now?
You mean right now? What's going on right now? Okay.
Yeah, like at the college, like what you teach. You teach a, like intro to welding, intro to machining. Like, what are the classes you teach?
Oh, okay. Well, right now for summer session 1, I'm teaching the Applied Tech High School basic machining class. It's called Machine Tool Principles, and they're getting very basic information about using a metal lathe and a vertical milling machine. They also get some information about surface grinding and abrasives in general. So that's that program. And the reason actually that we're doing this over the summer. It's actually not summer for them yet. Their school year ends like most school years for high school and middle school students is the end of June. So that's why this is running. But we were hybrid during the semester. This program has the students getting college credits while also completing their high school diploma. So if they're on the proper track, they can actually come away with a 2-year associate's degree while they get their high school diplomas. So we've always been trying to work towards these kinds of articulation agreements and cooperative agreements. But the Applied Tech High School is actually part of the county school system. So this makes it very easy for us to have coordinating schedules with the county community college. So that's what I'm doing right at the moment. But the manufacturing technology.
So wait, I don't mean to interrupt you, but so
no, go ahead.
The kids who take that high school program, they get college credit and they're on the college campus.
They are on the college campus. In fact, the school itself, their school, is a building on the college campus. They took over one of the buildings that was designated for their use, and they redesigned it, the interior of it, in order to accommodate their particular needs. But but they're coming over into the college, and they're taking regular college classes. They're not mixed with the traditional college students. They're not mixed with them, but they are in the same space. And the courses that they take are regular college courses. They're not high school courses.
I got a photo of you in your shop.
Uh-oh.
It's a little out of context, but you're helping us set up the yeah, that was you help with the plasma cutter. But if you could see in the background, I know things have changed.
Yeah.
But you can see in the background he's got vertical mills and he's got a whole bunch of lathes and then some guy trying to get into this draw system. And then
I know who that is too.
Yeah, is that Ion, right?
Yes, Ion.
Yeah. And so this is cool. So he's got like the capability to make so many different things, which is kind of cool. This was the electric car program we were doing. So that's Mark working with the students, putting a marker on it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But so these kids come in and you teach like a high school class, and then from the high school class, they're in this shop still, right?
Yeah, they're doing all the same work that the college students would be doing.
That's so cool.
They're taking a regular college class, so it's run exactly the same as the college class is. There's no consideration for the fact that they're high school students. It's just that they're on a different schedule. That's all, and they're not blended with college students.
Right. Okay. So they just don't mix in the room, but it's the same room.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Can you imagine if you were in high school and you got to go to a college campus and use all the same equipment, machine shop equipment, and then get credit for it? I mean, that's great.
We're doing dual credit with my kids, but they don't go. We won't go to the college. But I'm actually trying to get the college to send their kids to me.
Oh, really?
So we're trying to flip it. The high school's got a better situation than the community college. So,
wow. Does anybody else have a situation like that?
Well, we're trying to, the high school that I teach at is an apprentice academy high school. So what we're trying to do is turn it into kind of a voc tech experience, but also provide apprenticeships with the students and a program with the local community college where the students will also, when they graduate, get an associate's degree in industrial design technology. It's a very new thing. We're trying to launch this for the next year. Of course, COVID kind of screwed us up with this entire thing, but I think you're seeing a lot more of that nationwide, especially with this national initiative for workforce development.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, actually, Mark, you're kind of on the cutting edge here. You know, how long have you been doing that now? Before pandemic, right?
Oh yeah, this is. I think this is I'm going to guess. I'm not sure, but I think this is the 4th year now. So this is their 4th graduating class. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And these are juniors. This is a juniors class, by the way. And then the seniors do. Before we started, I was talking with Matt describing the concepts of industrial design course, which is for seniors. So that's what they do with me to finish off what what they started with the year before.
Okay.
I wanted to add too that the college, Bergen Community College, also has developed a number of relationships with high schools where they don't come to us, but they do get college credits, or a course that they took at the high school level counts as college credits. But that's limited. That's not to the same extent as what this applied tech high school
Oh,
is
I
doing.
see. So, like, if I had a program that was aligned with your curriculum, we could apply to. I remember we were starting to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I just forgot to follow it up. But yeah, it's possible to have your shop class get college credit. It's not a bad idea. I wonder what it takes. Who do you have that aligned with?
Hackensack High School, which is that's in the county. They're all in. Well, no, they're not all in county. We have Passaic Tech, which is in Passaic County, next to us in Bergen County.
Yeah.
Passaic County Votech. They have a articulation agreement with us. We've had a number of students from them come over. I mentioned Hackensack High School, which Hackensack is the county seat for Bergen County in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Let me see who else. A number of other schools. I don't usually know where the students are coming from. That's been handled by our articulation counselor, and those agreements are very formal. There's a review of our syllabi. There's a review of their course outlines. There's also a review of the high school teachers' capability, so that there's similar pedagogy coming from the high school into the college, so that there's an equivalency.
Okay.
And some of the high school courses, I have to say, are pretty comprehensive. I mean, they're doing an excellent job. So most of the time, that's fairly easy to do. We've only had a couple of schools that didn't really qualify because they really weren't properly prepared. But that's a rarity. Most of them, are doing a good job, and the students get in.
Yeah, that's cool. Matt, what were you saying? That are you getting kids with college credit for your program?
Yeah. So the seniors, we're teaming up with our local community college. And we have a few classes that already do this, but the high school can get dual credit for just taking my class. So it'll be whatever it is, like Carpentry 1 and Carpentry 2, which goes to like a construction certificate. So the seniors just pay the fee to Lincoln Land, and then I just have to put grades into another grade book. It's pretty much our syllabus is actually a little more comprehensive than what their class is. And I've had some graduates take it for their, and then when I taught for Lakeland College, when I taught at the prison, I taught this same course, like same certificate course and stuff. So, but I'm
Nice.
working on, we made an offer to Lincoln Land to send their students to me for like the night class or whatever to the job site 2 days a week. So I'm hoping they do that, because then they would pay me as an adjunct teacher. Actually a highly paid adjunct teacher, and as far as adjunct teachers go, which would be a nice little bump in pay for me for sure. So,
Nice.
but yeah, we're trying to make things like that happen. But yeah, so the kids just come to class normal, and then they get extra college credit.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I was thinking about doing it. I just didn't follow up with it. And then, Mark, what are the college classes that you teach right now?
Well, I'm the primary instructor for the manufacturing tech program. So I'm teaching everything except for a SolidWorks class, which we have a very good instructor. He's a mechanical engineer by education. His full-time job is as a mechanical engineer, and he's using Pro Engineer Creo he's been using for many years. We had him teaching that for a while, but we found that a lot of companies were moving away from ProRe and they were going into SolidWorks. I see heads shaking, because that's probably the case in many instances, that schools are going with SolidWorks. And I know that's been marketed pretty heavily. So he's teaching SolidWorks. I'm not doing that. And he's very good at it. He's the perfect guy for that. And then we have another adjunct who's been doing an applied metrology course for a number of years now. And I taught that originally, but then, we found him and he was able to do a very good job with that. So he took that over. But otherwise, everything else I do, which includes a quick list, 2 levels of machining, Machine Tool Principles 1 and 2 courses, Welding Technology 1 and 2. Then we have a course called Materials Processing and Fabrication, which is essentially materials science and then fabrication techniques that really dovetails with the welding course, especially Welding 2.
Yeah.
Let me see what else is in there. The Concepts of Industrial Design course, which is an intro to ID sketching and concept modeling, very, very basic concept modeling. Let's see. Well, we have CNC Programming 1 and CNC Programming 2. We have an adjunct now. We just found he's an employee of a local company that's very heavily involved in CNC machining. And he's been really good so far, but he only just started and he didn't even get to finish his first semester when COVID kicked in. And I have a terrible feeling that we're going to have a hard time keeping him because he's just going to have ended up so frustrated.
Oh yeah, imagine starting during COVID. That's crazy.
Yeah, I hope that isn't the case, but I don't know. It may come to pass. So
you could tough it out.
Yeah, well, I'll give you his number and you can call him and give him the pep talk because I can only do just so much to get somebody in. I've taught drafting, basic drafting 1, and
you're kind of like Timmy over here. Timmy's done like a multiple, like every class.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate, Mark, with having all these preps and different content areas that you really you basically run the gamut on, and you got to know a little about a lot, and after a while you just almost want to focus on something, and that's kind of why I took the leap to go to a different school and do the woodworking realm of that too. I got tired of being the I guess jack of all and trying to do everything, but it almost seems like I've gotten to do more now in addition to what I've already done, but with a little bit more consistency.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen that too as like a double-edged sword. For one thing, I've done a lot of different things and I like the variability. I like doing a lot of different kinds of courses and having a different approach to things. But you're right. There's something to be said for being able to kind of focus down a little bit and be consistent. So, I like the variability, but it's also stressful. I've taught a math course when I had to. I've been
no kidding.
Yeah, I taught basic math at the college. Because the students, when they come in, they take a placement exam, and if they don't score very well, then they'll place them in either a basic math course or they'll put them in an algebra. It's a high school level algebra course. And of course, that's part of the mission of a community college, is to get students up to speed. But yeah, math. I've been asked to teach a photography course. I couldn't do it because I was already overloaded. Every semester, I teach pretty much my maximum load with maximum overload. So, I'm typically teaching five courses a semester. 6 courses sometimes. I actually taught 7 one semester, and I thought I was going to jump off a bridge.
Oh my god, that sounds nuts.
That's just insane. And and then of course I support the STEM program at the college, as Ron, and and it's not only my own project, as you know.
It's like the only voice of reason in the STEM program.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when some of the engineering students hate me because they come and they want me to, because I also do not all of, I shouldn't say all of, but I do a lot of the 3D printing. We have 2 Stratasys machines. So I do a lot of that. And
I got some photos.
the engineering students really hate me because they bring their designs to me and I'm just like, what are you doing here? This is not efficient. This is going to be a lot too much weight for what it is they want or whatever. And Dave and he's laughing because he and I have had conversations about that. And
Oh yeah.
but it's the truth. I try to make sure that they understand. These are students that want to become engineers.
Yeah.
I am not by education an engineer, but I think that I have, from my experience in manufacturing, a sense of what engineering is supposed to be about. And and then again, it's not a big stretch for me to see that because they often really don't understand what engineers do. And I think
how dare you question their plan?
Exactly. It's just like if you're going to build a part, and Dave will relate to this because we've discussed it. How do you build a part that's going to go on a high altitude balloon project and it's filled with parts that are held together with nuts and bolts? What's wrong with that picture?
Yeah.
Okay, you're just building a load of weight onto something that should inherently be as light as possible. And, so it's all obvious things. It's obvious things like that. So, yeah, this is the picture Ron's got up here is one of the lathes, a really excellent student.
Oh yeah, Jan.
Yeah, Jan's worked with Ron now recently. And
yeah, I hired him personally for my home shop for doing a project. So he got it started. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think part of the problem stems from the fact that a lot of the parents just don't understand what the difference is between engineering and industrial design and just makings. And, of course, every parent thinks their kid's going to be an engineer for the ones that actually show that kind of aptitude. But I think that's where industrial design plays a big part for me, because I was one of those kids that didn't have the heavy theoretical math acumen, but was a very creative person, always loved to build things. And I think that this is the kind of thing that we can integrate very well in the shop classes that we do teach, and then maybe help on a career path to push people in a trajectory that might be more commensurate with their capabilities and maybe their goals and interests.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I went into industrial design. That was my major, and I don't know, engineering was not even on the horizon for me. I didn't even know what it was, and the only reason I did industrial design is because I had, you could draw what you wanted to build, and then if you wanted to build it, there was some slack in how much you needed to know. That's what I thought. But then you actually get down to it, and you actually got to build. You need to make prototypes, and then you got to understand how to go from a prototype to a manufacturing. So injection molding and different plastics and whatnot. And yeah, they don't cover this stuff in high school. It's all theoretical, So that's kind of that's a rough ride. So then when they hit a professor who's like Mark, and Mark's like, yeah, you can't do it like that, you should do it like this, and they probably get upset, which is what I felt at the college when I was there too. They would get like kind of nasty too sometimes because they don't want to hear no, and you're not saying no, you're saying do it better, and they don't like do it better because they're gonna break the machine or they're gonna waste material, and you're just like, you're not gonna let them do that. So then they're like, oh, you're in my way, so because they're in college, so they got they got the attitude now. Whereas in high school, they'll listen to you or they'll give up, so college is a different bag. It's kind of a weird deal,
and the other thing is I like that point, Ron. I mean, and even in the high school level, I like the kids to give a little pushback in terms of, stressing their design or explaining why they're picking a solution, or, describing why something needs to happen the way they think it needs to happen. And they don't give you that, those are the stuff that you want. And it's almost like you really got to pry and question and really, direct the question specifically to them, saying, well, why did you select those two materials? Why did you glue things that way? Why did you use this type of screw? And sometimes they don't fight. You want them to fight back, but they don't, and the things that you don't want them to fight on, they fight you on.
Yeah.
They're afraid to fail. They're afraid to make a mistake, And
like right now we're working on these end grain cutting boards. And I told the kids, I said, listen, sanding sucks. I get it. It's horrible. We can run your cutting boards through a drum sander. I can get them flat, or we can get them flat. But the problem is you're going to have to sand, if not more, with that. And I tell them, listen, you need to sand at 80 grit for a long time. And I said, because it'll make it better later in the process.
I can't even I'm trying to imagine Timmy talking to a kid and be like, all right, look, just keep on doing this. And the kid's like, do I have to?
They don't understand sweat equity.
And it is.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what it is. It's like, yes, you have to. I'm telling you, because you want to be happy with this artifact that you're making. Because not only is it, a product and a project and skills being taught and skills being learned, it's an artifact. That artifact is going to be with them for the duration of their life. And you want to make sure that you sanded the most you could sand, because in 20 years you're going to say to yourself, I wish I sanded that more, because I can still see saw marks.
Yeah, and then for me, Tim, like the kids, like getting kids to sand just nail hole filler and putty, so it's light sanding, easy. You're sanding sponge on trim because we were prepping for paint, and I was trying to explain to the kids, I'm like, look, sanding sucks. It's the thing I hate the worst. That's why I'm making you guys do all of it. But I was like, it's super simple. Like, it's the simplest thing you can do is take this sanding sponge. You can't even mess it up. Just sand. And you sand till it's perfect. Now, to them, it is sand till I don't like doing this no more, or till I'm bored, which is about 30 seconds into it. And then they stop and they're wandering around the house. I'm like, no, sand. I said, once you think you've got it perfect, sand for another minute. And then it's perfect. I said, because anything we spray on top of this is going to come out. Like paint doesn't doesn't fix, it covers what's there. Like if there's an imperfection, it paints the imperfection, and now you just have a painted imperfection. Like, oh my God. Talk about, go ahead. I was going to say, talk about an artifact. You're building a house that's supposed to last forever, right? Like, you want it to look as good as possible.
You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear comes to mind, because it's like, listen, would you buy this? When they're trying to do a rush job, or they don't get right angles together, they don't affix properly, they're not sanding, and then they put a coat of paint on and they wonder why there's bubbling, cracks, gaps, Mr. Mitch, and then they try to cover it up with extra layers, and they get these cuts, you just get this mess. And it's really like, guys, you need to take the time. I always use the analogy of the path of the craftsman. And I talk about the great samurai sword makers from the feudal samurai period. They worked thousands of hours to hone that craft. And it just didn't, I'm gonna go out and make a samurai,
Yeah.
And it's just get them to buckle down and to see the attention to detail and the commitment to the craft is, I think, key. It's more important than the actual piece that they're creating.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, like, I think some of the kids see it as, this is just a little bit more organized means of me throwing some things together with my, my dad or, my pop in the garage. And then when it's, when you're in the class and you're telling them like, listen, this is how you got to do it. They're like, man, this guy's intense. It's like this, it's got to be good. Like that one cutting board you just showed, Ron, on my Instagram, that one was done very well. It was done very well. He followed the instructions, went through the procedures, went through, this one that, this one that you have up there, like the kid was all in, literally all in, not that he pushed back on what he was doing, but he was all in and taking the tips, the pointers, the techniques, and going from there. And I mean, you walk away with a beautiful piece of project there,
Yeah, that's cool.
This thing's very nice.
Yeah, it's pretty rare that I get a kid who I have two paths on this, like on this topic. I got two directions that I go to. What I do is I say, this is very difficult, what we're showing here with Tim, what he did and what Mark's talking about and what everybody's talking about. That's extremely difficult to get the light of kids' fire and get the kid to understand the path of the craftsman that David just mentioned. That is like probably the most difficult thing I think to do. The other path that I take for a quick, but it's not a craftsmanship thing, it's like an engineering thing, is I do a short run contest. So we make these flashlights. The flashlights got to survive a destructive test. We break shit, and then they have to iterate very quickly and become better craftsmen and better engineers very quickly with stuff that we're going to throw out anyway. So I admire the shop teachers that take the time to do like a long, thing where it's like this well thought of piece and it's like well engineered and all that. I do that, but I only do that every so often. And it's literally based on like if a kid is willing to take that path. I've had some kids weld up a chair. I'll try and find some photos of that. And then the other one is my flashlight project, or I have another contest, a little car project. And yeah, it's just, this takes a lot of patience from the teacher. You guys are amazing. I don't know how you do it.
Well, another thing was like last year, 2019, fall semester 2019, I came up with an idea with having the kids, basically come up with some sort of electronic sign, like an LED desk sign or desk lamp or something. And now, I did 90% of the work. The kids designed their laser engraving for what they wanted it to say. And then we went through the design process in terms of how to, assemble a circuit board, how to take a circuit board that was designed for another purpose and repurpose it into a usable product. And, now, I was intending on doing that same project in the spring of 2020, but with COVID, schools closed now it's 2021, and now I'm trying to revamp the program and coming up with different ideas. So this semester I took a different project with the same intention of turning it into an LED sign. I actually haven't posted anything about this in Instagram, but I asked,
why are you holding back?
I actually haven't had time to take pictures of it, but I asked a student to help me come up with a design, and it was really like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
And it was, here's what I did in the past. I want to modify it another way. I want to have the potentiometer exposed, but yet I also want to have the circuit board contained. And these are all the parts and things I have. I just don't know what to do. So let's brainstorm some ideas. And the student really didn't come. He didn't come to the table with anything.
Right.
It was disappointing to me.
Yeah. So like, for instance, I got, it's difficult. It's the most difficult thing to do is to do a high craftsmanship thing. So for instance, here's this girl that took my class. She did this stool thing where it was broken. So she modified it. She did a little brazing as well. We were trying it. Then she did some TIG welding. I guess she was fixing this. There she is right there. She's 5'0", and she's rocking and rolling in the classroom. It was awesome, you know? And then she made these brackets, and I said, hey, make it out of paper, you know, and I didn't design any of this stuff. I just said, hey, you know, try it with paper first. And then she spot welded that. And she had to take a cover from another seat, and she riveted that. And, you know, the whole thing, she finished the whole thing. And then she sat on it, and then she said, can I take this home? And I'm like, absolutely. That chair was broken. It's yours. You know what I mean? Like, you're the one who put the work into it. So, and she wrote like a whole blog about it. That was my only requirement, is that she had this, you see, she wrote like every detail's like written down, you know? And, you know, to me, these are, yeah.
That right there is probably the most valuable thing that you were able to give her, is the confidence to be able to document her process, because she's not afraid to share it with people now. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that we have, is because a lot of these kids are so afraid to voice their opinion or expose themselves in a way that, you know, makes them vulnerable to maybe being wrong, or maybe not, you know, having the right solution. And I think that is really a testament to what education really should be about.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, the process.
Yeah, because, you know, like it's weird being a shop teacher. I tell kids all the time, every teacher is telling them the exact opposite that we're telling them. We're saying fail to learn. And all the other teachers are saying, don't fail. You need to do what we tell you, you know? So like, you know, it's like, it's a conflict, but I laugh about it. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you, this is my opening line to everybody. I'm like, I'm going to tell you something all the other teachers are not telling you. You need to break some stuff. You need to fail, you know? And they're like, huh? You know? And, you know, so here's with the paper. What I do to save material is I just have them do it in paper first, which sometimes they get mad about that. Why can't I just do it in steel? Because you don't have the skills yet.
I tried that. Like, we were making prototypes of candy dispensers last year.
Yeah.
And when I said build it out of cardboard, they were like, this is wood shop. We're supposed to make stuff out of wood. Yeah, but I want you to make it out of cardboard. That's not right. That's not right. I said, well, you're going to have patterns.
Yeah.
Then you can go right to wood. And then the time that you are going to invest, in the pattern is going to save you time during production later.
Well, so that's why I mean, yeah. So that's why I mean, it's
true.
He's right. That's right. Sorry, go ahead.
And then they're like, well, how do I cut the cardboard? Use a table saw. Use a bandsaw. Well, yeah, but what? But you can't do that. Yes, you can. It's a material.
Yeah.
I don't care whether it came out of like a Keebler, box, or a cereal box, or a box for a refrigerator. It's good. The process is just like any piece of wood.
Mr. Tim, what's key?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
They don't know what a Keebler is.
Well, I mean, it's just like.
No, I know.
This is my example to you, but what I'm just saying is, like, they don't understand. They think wood shop. Wait a minute, I should only be working with wood.
Right.
And they don't envision, like, oh yeah, cardboard is a modeling material.
Cardboard's that's made of fibers. Just like wood.
I'd like to add something to that too, and I think that is that the students often underestimate and undervalue. That's really the better phrase. They undervalue drawings.
Oh yeah.
And you can solve so many engineering problems just by creating a drawing of it. And when you have, in my instance, STEM students coming to me and they want to 3D print parts over and over and over and over again, creating all these iterations and it's not just about money, but it's also about time. They're spending a few $100s on materials, wasting a few $100s worth of materials, and spending tens of hours of printing time only to have something come out that they're like, oh, it's self-evident to them that this is something that's not going to do what I wanted it to do. And I say to them, where's your drawings? And then they don't know how to draw. They don't even know how to make a basic sketch. And so this is why I push back on some of the pure engineering instructors that say, well, they're going to be engineering students and they're only going to use SolidWorks or Fusion 360 when they go to their 4-year school or whatever. And my colleague Matt King teaches basic pencil drafting. He also teaches CAD. He's a certified CAD trainer. He does a lot of private training for companies. And I totally agree with him when he says, look, CAD is just an electronic pencil. And if you don't know what the rules are and you don't understand ideas of design, then it doesn't matter what the media is that you're using, or the medium, I should say, rather, whether it's a piece of paper and a pencil, or it's a CAD drawing, 2D or 3D, whatever. You need to work some of these things out in advance. And, Ron, Dave, you guys know, of course, that a quick pencil sketch can solve so many problems. Yeah. Without having to get to the point where you are cutting out cardboard. And then you do need to incorporate that 3-dimensional component that, Tim, that you've been talking about, where, let's make a cardboard model of this. Let's suss it out, especially, if you're bending sheet metal or something like that. That's a no-brainer. Cardboard becomes the sheet metal easily.
Yeah.
And that's what my ID course does with the concept models, is try to get them to be familiar with some materials and some basic tools. Why is it that students they have no concept of basic tools anymore? They haven't built, my generation, we built, I'm of the putting the roller skates onto a board and making your own skateboard. Nailing them on, never mind screws, you nailed them on.
Go-karts, like soapbox derby, stuff
right,
like that.
All that kind of stuff. And, talk about making mistakes. I mean, this is what you did, was you made a lot of mistakes. Yeah. And you learned the dynamics of how a hammer swings and how to hold a screwdriver so that you can drive it efficiently. And you do that over and over and over again. And sanding, you learn how to sand things. You also learn the limitations of materials. Wood has certain limitations. Plastic has certain limitations. Metals have certain limitations. But when you learn how to take advantage of the advantages of all of those things and use them in the correct way, which is what engineers do. That's why a material science course is important, for them to understand the difference.
Oh yeah.
So it all ties together, but basic skills and basic tool use is really, lacking in not in the schools, because I think that the tech ed teachers, the shop classes, are doing a fantastic job, and I'm absolutely, in support of that. But I don't see it happening in homes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I encourage students to put a toolbox together or a tool bag. Get yourself a carpenter's hammer and a straight, slot screwdriver and a tape measure. And
that's a great point, Mark. Because I think what we should do collectively as a group is maybe kind of put that in our bag of tricks and say, all right, guys, here's the toolbox of the blank, construction foreman, the industrial designer, the mechanical engineer, and then maybe do a show and tell of these are the tools that some of these folks use, because I don't see that. They always want us to right to the real expensive stuff. Go right for the machines, go right for the CAD, the solid modeling, all that kind of stuff, and I think a real basic, knowledge of how to put together your own toolbox or toolkit at home would be extremely valuable, in these courses.
See, now, I was, obviously, I'm like, that was too frustrating for me. I absolutely can't have these conversations. It's very difficult to have these conversations with the kids about craftsmanship, although I will. But here's my extreme reaction to that. So what I do is I do a contest where they got to make a flashlight, right? So they got to make a flashlight, and there are very few rules. The rules are it's got to have a light that we measure. It's got to survive a 5-foot drop, and it's got to turn on and off. Okay. And then here's where it doesn't end there. So like if it ended there, it would come down to craftsmanship. Here's where I gamify it, where the energy they have, instead of directing the energy at me, the guy stopping them and saying, no, please, you got to be a little more crafty and da-da-da. What I do is I say, okay, the lightest flashlight wins. Okay, so all over the map, 23 grams, 16 grams, 11 grams. But if you could see, you see this 138. Here's what you get in the first week. You get this huge thing, right? And then I say to them, if I personally said to them, hey, here's my personal opinion. You guys should use less wires, a smaller switch, and I personally think that you should be a better craftsman, right? Can you imagine the pushback? Maybe 1 or 2 kids for the whole year would do it. The rest of them would be like, this is fine. It works, you know what I mean? So what I do is that I show them, I say, hey, good job. And I'll give you a grade for that. You got to document it. But you weigh 138 grams. And they're like, how much does the best people weigh? And I go, last year's winner was like 3 grams. And they're like, what? So they can't even, yeah. And then on their own, they tear the switches apart. I did not do this. They start ripping apart switches. They start getting down to like 7 grams. Look at this. No wires, direct soldering. I didn't tell them to do that, although that's clearly what the move is. So I gamify it, and then they have to, this is them like, this is the little video of them dropping it. So if the computer works, I don't know. Here we go. So he drops it. Okay, he picks it up. And then he's got to turn it on. It's on. And then he's going to weigh it. 30 grams.
Good job.
31. All right. And he didn't win, but he's he's proud of what he did, And that kid actually, believe it or not, he worked for Chuck E. Cheese repairing the quarter machines. And I was like, dude, that's good. So this is my solution. Meanwhile, I would love to have people do. Look at this. Look how large this is. This huge platform that she made. I couldn't even explain to her. I was like, this thing's too big, So anyway, and then I give out awards and whatnot. Yeah. So that's my response to the craftsmanship issue. Is I just go, okay, you guys are gonna fight yourselves. Anybody else gamify their class at all?
I have a game for my students, my college students.
Yeah.
It's called Keep Your Project Out of the Garbage Can. I'll go through the whole thing. I'll explain what's wrong with it. They understand it. I'll do some drawings to improve what they need to do, and then I put it in the garbage can. Yeah, I have a somewhat different attitude about it because I get frustrated with adult students. I just feel like they should know better. I think a lot of the stuff that gets brought in is there's something wrong with the way that they're thinking about what's good enough. We also have in our drafting and design program, we have an architectural focus in one of the programs, and the the primary instructor for that is a master's degreed architect. He's has designed some wonderful things, and he's got very high standards. But in spite of all of that, and in spite of all the tutelage that he provides aside from the classroom, he had a student one time in an architectural design course that came in with what was essentially a bunch of firewood. It looked like firewood piled up, and he was presenting
God, that's really funny.
I wish I had pictures. Somebody must have some pictures of it if I can find them. And it was just beyond us to understand how he thought that somehow could be interpreted as a good project. But these are college students, and I think there's a little bit less tolerance. When I was in my BA is in fine art, but I changed kind of at the last minute because I needed to get finished up. I started out and did most of my undergrad work as an industrial design major. And I was in a lot of classes that, I'm not justifying this, but I was in a lot of classes where, during critiques, people cried. The criticism was harsh.
Tim, we were talking about this last time.
I had a project that I thought I did a really good job on. I really did. But it's obvious now after the fact that there was one glaring fault in my project, and I got ripped apart for that. And, it makes you straighten out. Now, I'm not advocating that necessarily for the high school students because, there's a different dynamic going on there. But
you can pull that with certain kids.
Yes, you can. That's true.
Certain high school kids, you can pull that with. Mm-hmm. And there's been ones like I had a kid. Actually, matter of fact, it was Shane. When we had Shane on a couple weeks ago, he made this bowl, and he wouldn't listen to what I was telling him to do, and he just kind of went on his own route to do this ring for his bowl he was making. And he came in and goes, it didn't show up as well as I wanted it to be. And I says, do you want to do it your way again? Because your way stinks. Or do you want to do it my way and we'll have some fun? And I said, throw what you had away. We're going to do it my way. And that's what we did. And he was tickled pink. And certain kids, you can get away with that. But there's a lot of kids you cannot get away with that because they'll shut down immediately. They'll mope out the door, down the hall to their locker, and then that's that. Then they're done for the rest of the day.
Well, and you don't want to ruin the passion. If they've got a little bit of passion in them to want to make stuff, I think that that it's a much more positive methodology to point out the things that are working before I'm criticizing what isn't. But I also, in no uncertain terms, make it very clear that there are things that are acceptable and things that aren't. And real life is like that too. You go out there and, if you're in the building trades and you're working on a home, and, you really screw it up, you could cost not only yourself a job, but also cost the company real money. It's the old Homer Simpson whistling as the plant is melting down behind him, leaving his desk. You can't do that. And it's just like you have to own up to it and understand that, there is a thing called quality control, quality assurance. These corporations have whole departments that's all they do. So, I don't know. I guess I don't want to rain on my kids' parade, but I think I'd be doing them a disservice if I just let them get away with, the mediocrity. I always say,
I agree.
Achieving new heights in mediocrity.
It's difficult when you're dealing with it's difficult when you're dealing with aesthetics. So that's why, like the flashlight, it's a number. I nailed it down to a number. But with that chair, she clearly can sit on it, and then it came down to aesthetics after that. And it's like one of those rare things where she was asking my opinion. She's like, "What do you think of this?" And I was like, "Well," and then it's like, great, isn't it really nice when you get on the level and the kid's like, "Okay, this is my plan." I'm like, "All right, let me hear it." And then and then you're like, "Okay, well, that's cool, except I would do this and I would do this first and da 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 da." And then it's like the magic. That's like the best time, And those kids are like, "Oh my God." And then, clearly they go on to great things. So that's why I say it's the most difficult thing to do, and it's super rare. But it does happen,
I mean, James Dyson, right? What do you make? 5,000 prototypes before he actually made the Dyson, vacuum cleaner that we all know and love. Yeah. I mean, that just goes to show you that it's not an easy, quick fix. And, always a lot of the students are always thinking, well, the first thing I come up with, eureka, I've struck gold, and it's just like, wait a minute, hold it, it's even, like Foghorn Leghorn. Well, I say, whoa there, son.
Even tonight, the reason I was late is because I taught a private class on what I call small engines. So it was like a crash course, but it was at someone's house. So the uncle had bought the class. So I went over there with engines. We run the engine, we take it apart, and we put it back together. Well, while we're doing that, this kid has never even seen the inside of an engine, and he's asking me, how do I make more power? And I go, just relax, but you can't say that because, well, what about this? What if I put a turbo on there? And I'm like, all right. So like they never, one thing at a time, I think I lost my train of thought, but I was jumping off of what David was saying. But basically, yeah, like, these kids need to have a little bit of a stepping stone situation to go on, and then they can, jump off and go crazy. Just switching topics for a sec. Mark, did you want to show us, did you have something prepared as far as did you want to show us any projects you're working on? Because he's got some cool stuff going on at the house there.
I don't think I have any pictures here. I'll have to take a second and look to see if I've got anything that I can.
That's all right. That's all right.
Share. Do you have that? Do you have that video that I sent you? That might be. It's only about 30 seconds long. That might be interesting to look at.
Yeah. How did you send? Oh yeah. I have that. Hold on. Let me pull it up.
Is that something that?
Yeah, we could do that.
Would be relevant.
Well, while you're setting that up, I watched that. Well, I started to watch, then the school day started. But I started to watch the Starrett and the caliper presentation.
The video,
the video that you had there, and that was very good stuff.
Oh yeah, I actually have it pulled up right now.
Yeah, that's what I started to watch.
Yeah, he does a real good job with Mark's very diligent, so or like detail oriented, so he's going to go over the whole thing, Yeah, this is a pretty good one right here.
Yeah, this was shot as a preparatory video for the Machine Tool Principles 1 class, and because they have to have a caliper, each of the students is supposed to supply their own caliper. At the college, we do not have mass numbers of micrometers and calipers and depth gauges and all these other things. I have a few, and most of the time the students don't need to, have all their own stuff. But I think it's, besides the course, I think it's good for them to have an inexpensive caliper, because you certainly can use that in many, many, many different ways in your own life, aside from any kind of a machining environment. So that's I
use a caliper in my woodworking class all the time now. I never used to, and I wish we were taught that. I mean, I just think it's so beneficial because of accuracy and and just finesse in terms of craftsmanship. So
absolutely,
it was. I wish I was offered to buy one of these. I mean, I felt like anything that I bought for college really was not an unneeded purchase in my tenure in college. That's the way I feel. But I feel like there were a lot of things I should have had and I didn't, and this was one of them.
Well, this goes back to kind of starting your own toolkit attitude. Getting some basic tools, getting some basic measurement tools, and I also make a point in the machining class that you're now working to thousandths of an inch. You're not working to fractions of an inch. You're working to thousandths of an inch, and try to make that relevant. And we covered a lot of that. I taught the applied metrology course this spring semester, and that's all about precision measurement and quality control and consistency and geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, and trying to get them to understand that we're now working to very fine levels of resolution and small amounts of material, and how that's managed. And this is the beginning of that. And I agree with you, Tim. I mean, I didn't have a caliper when I was a kid. I would have loved a caliper when I was a kid, because I was always measuring stuff, and I was always looking for ways to make things better. I was into model railroads. I was into slot cars. I was into model airplanes, gas engine powered model airplanes and all kinds of stuff. And, I just loved all this stuff. And I wish there was a high school program like what you guys have described that you're doing back when I was in school. They had a wood shop. We didn't have a metal shop, but I did take wood shop, and that was really the extent of it. And I tell you what, the reason that I wasn't in some of the good courses is because I was on an engineering track, they so-called, okay? I was on a college track to go into engineering, which is not what I ended up wanting to do. But because of that, I was shunted away from the more practical thing. I would have liked to have taken more woodshop classes, but it was only required that you took one, and that was it. And the rest of it I learned on my own.
Wow.
My father was a construction worker, but he really knew nothing about really how to make stuff. He knew how to do his job, and he did it well. But when it came to tools, he liked tools. But I used to bust my father's chops all the time, because I'd be like, "Dad, when are you gonna take that tool out of the box?" He'd buy stuff and he'd leave it in the box and leave it pristine for 20 years. And I'm like, "Yeah, you got a whole shelf full of tools you're never gonna use," And I would tease him about it, which had no effect on motivating him whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Also I should say that, it's interesting because I think, Mark, you fall into the multifaceted category similar to like Tim or, all these other shop teachers in here, is that you use your skills from other industries. So I know you have a photography background.
Right.
And, so if you go here to the caliper one, so this is like an overhead cam. Like, can you just tell us about this setup? Because it's like really well done.
Okay.
I mean, I know, and when I say that, I know Mark's going to say, "Well, actually, it's got this flaw, that flaw." No. From my perspective, this is good.
No, I'm satisfied with this. All
right.
This is very simple. This is the desk that I am sitting. Actually, it's a table that I am sitting at right now, and it's just like a generic heavy-duty office table, and there's nothing on top of it for background. So it ends up being kind of like this taupe-colored background that actually works pretty well because it doesn't glare too much. And then I used some 1-inch square 16-gauge steel tubing, and I made myself 2 legs with an overhead bar and drilled a couple of holes. I clamped it together, clamped it to the table, and I have a Home Depot, I guess it's 18-inch long, very small diameter fluorescent tube that's overhead. That's where the lighting has come from in these. And I have a little ball head with a Canon M3 camera, which is a small body, and the stock lens that came with it, nothing special. And I can zoom it in and out, so it's handy because I can really.
Can you show us it, or is it I
don't have the camera set up at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
One of the things I do too is I have I have Canon's top macro lens. I switched over to Canon. I shot with Nikons for 17, 18, 20 years almost, and among other cameras. And I got away from the Nikons. I had gone to Nikon digital cameras in the early days, and I wasn't satisfied with any of it. So I switched over to Canon stuff, which a friend of mine used. And I get the kind of images that I want now with the Canons. So I bought Canon's top macro lens, and I shoot a lot of stuff with that now. But it's not perfect for every situation. So I just ordered just this week. I'm expecting it Friday. Is an Amscope microscope. It's a trinocular microscope. So it's binocular stereo with a camera port.
Whoa, slow down there, cowboy. What are you talking about here? What?
Okay.
Explain this so I can look it up.
It's a microscope. It's a trinocular microscope. So it has 3 ports.
Trinocular.
Trinocular, yeah. It's not that exotic, so there you go. Trinocular. Not Kalar.
Right.
Try, and you had it, most of it.
We're still working on spelling with him.
There you go. There you go. Trinocular microscope. Scroll down. There you go. Yeah.
Good job. Nice job with the trinocular.
That's it. Excellent. So, look. So
remember,
look at it, Ron.
Remember,
scroll over 3.
Remember the whale from last week, Ron? We can get paybacks, okay, buddy?
That's good. That's true. Oh man, that's funny.
Third, that one right there, right there.
This one.
Click on that.
As you can tell, there's a bit of a ball busting element to this group.
Well, part of it's that we're both Jersey guys. So,
yeah,
and we're literally about an hour away from each other, and we just fling words back and forth between each other.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, you know I don't bust your balls either, right? So,
yeah. Mark's holding back right now.
I'm being polite. Okay, so you can see that there's 2 openings for your eyeballs, and then
those are the things you see with Ron.
Right. Which Ron doesn't use all that often. And then the third one, the third eye,
okay.
All right, is the camera. Now I'm not going to
get it. Try Ron means 3.
Right. So this is one of their digital camera backs that goes on there. Obviously, it's got no controls or anything.
Jesus, Mark, what are you going to use this thing for?
No, I'm going to mount. Wait a minute. Let me finish describing this. So I'm going to mount my own camera on here because it's better resolution and it's easier for me to work with the images. And
I thought I had hobbies at home.
These, well, this will be my 4th microscope. So shut up. All right. So, so this one, I already have the camera adapter that goes to the Canon system cameras. And this is designed to have a high level of magnification, but a lot of distance between the subject and the lens. And the purpose of that is to work on things like printed circuit boards and repairing components, things of that sort. You could almost call it more of a macroscope because we're not, going into like a couple 100-time magnification, or although this goes to 90, so that's really pretty high. But my primary purpose for this is to show metallurgical features.
Oh, wow.
Geometry of cutting tools, things like built-up edge, fractures that you normally wouldn't see, and be able to show those. See, there you go. It shows you the kinds of images you can create. And this way I can show images of this in the classroom. And I can also shoot video through it too, which all my videos that are posted are shot on my two Canon cameras.
Oh, that would be pretty interesting.
Oh, actually, one's on a Panasonic camcorder too. But anyway, that's the idea for this. So I'm always trying to think of new ways to bring images to the students, because I think that our students, are inherently not only kinesthetic learners, but they're very visual learners, and they need to see stuff. And they're used to looking at everything. They're used to looking at YouTube. They're used to looking at images of things. And I think that's very helpful. Even my older students, I've had students into their 60s and older, actually 70s. And, the people that are drawn to this kind of stuff really are very visual people.
Interesting. What is the back?
Let me weigh in on something here. One of the things that I think is incredibly important for these kids to understand too, not just kids, but everybody really, is the structure of nature seen at a macro level will inform us about the strength of materials, how things are structurally laid up, and provides a lot of new ideas in terms of how they can then become shape formers, how they can then create layers of complexity without overloading the material aspect, but also creating strength and rigidity where, using a simple level of added, what's the word I'm looking for? Laminate, laminates in the structure. And I think that's incredibly valuable, because from a strength of material standpoint, and also from an engineering economy standpoint, this is something that a lot of students really need to understand, that there are multiple ways. And if you look at a spider silk, for example, it's 10 times stronger than steel if you were to scale that up to human scale. So generative design has become such a big thing. It's changing the whole manufacturing world, really, because it's providing new solutions where they previously weren't.
Yeah, this is really cool stuff coming up.
Yeah, really cool.
I'd like to just add a little bit too. Dave and I have been friends now for many years, and we've done a lot of different things together. And we did a design for plastic injection molding workshop at UMass Lowell, and we also visited the biological laboratory at Brown University. Dave, what's the name of that? That's the woman's name that's named after. Oh, you're muted. Your mic is muted, Dave.
David, your mic's muted.
I'm sorry about that. It's the Edna Lawrence Nature Laboratory at Rhode Island School of Design.
That's right. But it's by Brown University. It's up by Brown.
Yeah, literally across the street from it. Yeah.
So and Dave's very much into biomimetic design, which I think is really, very innovative. That's really a great way of looking at things, and a lot of industrial things now are borrowing from the design of nature, designed from nature, or at the very least inspired by nature. And I think that's another thing that's important for students to understand, because I also don't think students get out into nature much anymore either. They spend too much time in the house, so, and they're not working with tools.
No. That's wild. Cool. Yeah. So, I just wanted to go over now. What is this video? Let's go over your YouTube channel a little bit.
Oh, okay.
What's this video about right here?
Well, this is just about a super ultra basic video to get the students to understand how to get an arc started with stick welding.
Oh, yeah.
That's all. It's not meant to teach you how to weld. It's really just about the ways that you get an arc started, and that's all I'm showing in this video. Nothing else. It's that basic.
Mark, do you have a video on how to mow your lawn?
Or dial a phone to call 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Yeah. Oh
We
my
got
God.
snake.
I thought that was one of Ron's cars.
Well, listen, you know.
That's funny, Duke.
Yeah.
No.
I got rid of the Volvo.
Ron's cars look just like that, except they run. So I think that's what he was driving tonight.
Oh my God. You should see.
And I'm sure that you know, for the next generation that comes after me will enjoy removing the soil from my driveway, as it will become a Superfund site. Clearly, so hopefully nobody from the state DEP is watching this or listening to this. But
well, it's going to be contaminated soil, huh, Mark?
it is going to be okay. Yeah.
Ron, is that your Ranger?
This was my situation over the weekend.
Yeah, Ron's building one of those what do you call it? Lowrider cars where the bed comes off and it dances around on hydraulics.
Yeah.
So
that would be better than this. Oh, that was the barb. You know, there was all kinds of stuff in the barb that from my connector left over from when they machined it. Stainless steel left in there. Luckily, it never went into the fuel.
What is that? What are you doing? You get into your gas tank, or what are you looking there for?
Oh, when the squirrels ate the fuel line, I patched it up, and then they ate it again, and I patched it up, and it was like so many times. So it was all these patches. So finally, I was like, all right, I got the time. It's time. It was leaking a little. I was like, all right, let me put one line in. So I go to put one line in, and of course, it was like, you know, a bit of a disaster. It took a long time, and then I don't know if you know, but these type of connectors. Hold on.
So are you driving your pickup truck with no bed on it right now?
No. It's all back together.
Okay.
But these type of connectors, you have to use no heat, and you need a very focused amount of pressure to push them on. Kirk, you're nodding like you've been there and done this.
Many different things, and you push it in too hard, it bends, and you've already cut the hose to a particular length, so it doesn't kink, and then there's not enough length to actually make it stick.
Oh my God! Let me show you what. Yeah, and I thought, you know, heat is kind of what everybody shows online, and you think, okay, well, that's the way to go. But actually, this is the setup that works. Is you need a hose clamp. You need a vise, and you need a little bit of grease, and then what you do is you place a C-clamp in between. I don't know if you can see my mouse. In between the backing plate and the other piece, you could start. No, this is something else. You could start by. This is Jan helping me out. You could start by pushing it in, but then you got to use a C-clamp, and you have to pressurize. It's a 4-hand operation. It's madness unless you buy the tool, which is $100 and a couple days away. So this was trying to get it done Sunday at 12 at night, you know. But she's back.
Ron is very good at taking the bed off his pickup truck because he's had it off in my driveway too.
Yeah.
So it seems to be becoming a thing.
Yeah, I could take that bed off. Like, give me a cherry picker and a number 55 Torx bit. That bed's coming off. It just goes. It's only 6 bolts and a little thing on the here, and you know, this is me, proud as hell of a '96 Ranger. Someone would throw this out yesterday. You know, it was like absurd. But anyway, yeah, we all have projects. Okay. So, Mark, what the hell is going on with this Honda in the background there?
Well,
do you even strike the arc, or are you just talking about the arc? What's going on?
What did you watch the video? No, of course you didn't. No, if you watch it, if you actually watch it, you'll see that I do strike an arc twice, in fact.
No, it's true. It's not easy to get it started. That's one of the most difficult things. But what I like about what you've done is you've created the flipped classroom, and you do it in your way. You know, anybody could find a welding video, but you spent the time. I think you're mic'd up, right? You put a lava.
Yeah.
He spends the time to do it, and these are invaluable because now he can use them every year. You email it to the kids that are having trouble. You know, and I would encourage, well, that's pretty good. You didn't get it stuck. I would encourage any all shop teachers, you know, you guys have the skills. A lot of people are photographers and woodworkers and whatnot. And what you do is you have a list of your videos, and then so he's got his grinder demo, abrasives, he's got his welding protective, the arc strike. Oh, and you know, then he does some projects and whatnot, you know. Shadow maker, the rest are shadow makers. Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to make videos. So I understand why there's not 400 videos here. Now this is cool, the abrasive one. What's going on here?
Abrasives, grinder. Yeah, what is it? Let me see. Which
Oh,
one
sorry, I wasn't sharing. Sorry.
Which one are you
that.
looking at?
Sorry about that. This one.
Oh, okay. So that's this is me in my my home part of my home shop. And,
it looks bigger in the photo here. In the it's not as big as it looks.
No, this is about right. You've been.
No, I don't.
Many
I have
times.
no idea how, but he's got like a full machine shop in just one piece of the basement. It's unbelievable.
Right, and then
it is unbelievable, and I having served time on a nuclear submarine can attest that I felt very in Mark's.
Nice. Yeah, it worked.
Did you say at home?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I felt very much at home.
I wanted you to feel comfortable, so that's why I made it this way. Yeah, this is part of my home shop, which is, yeah, I don't have enough room for the things that I have. I've got stuff pretty much the entire basement of the house is filled with equipment. I've got what's on the backside there, Ron? The toolboxes are back there, the workbench, the vise, the arbor press, my hydraulic press. What else? I have my
jeweler's table.
Yeah, the jeweler stuff, the rolling mill,
welder.
Yeah, the one welder's back there, and actually two of them now. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things, and if you were to watch this, I even talk about some stuff that's in this room that you can't see. But anyway, so if you fast forward it, Ron, then I shift over to the college. And I speak very briefly about. I think it's coming. There you go, right there.
Oh, okay.
So then I had crazy hair that day, and then I shift over to the college. I just talk a little bit about how those grinding wheels are mounted to the grinder itself, and then I move from this to just a very, very, very quick description of what's going on with the surface grinder. And normally in a regular non-hybrid class, I have the time to do a full in-person demonstration on the surface grinder. And I tell them a little bit about how I've used the surface grinder for work, in an industrial environment. And that's one thing that's important to me is, I've got the experience using this equipment in an industrial environment. And I think that helps. Stories about what I've done with it helps relate to what they're doing or what they may want to do in the future. So, in fact, I had a student that graduated this semester from the college, an adult student, and he wrote a very nice email thanking me for incorporating stories about my experiences into the course content so that it would relate. And I think that that's very important for any of the shop teachers to do, because we've all got some experience with working in an industry.
This is like really good stuff. Imagine if every shop teacher did like 10 videos at least, then you'd have so many. But it never replaces your own, because
Sure.
you can always look up some video, and some good YouTuber or whatever. But the thing about it is that it's you, and your students appreciate that. Like
Yeah.
Timmy, if you did do you have any videos doing a wood turning videos explaining how to mount up to the, to the chuck and all that stuff?
No, I haven't done anything like that, and it's funny you should
Yeah.
ask because
Oh yeah.
I certainly could do that. I mean, there's a wood turning lathe in my shop too at home,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, and it's just meant for small things, but I've made some interesting things with that,
Yeah.
and that's very helpful. I have a knife
Oh
grinder,
yeah.
a belt sander for knife making. I am not a knife maker the way that people call themselves knife makers. But
Yeah.
I like to explore that stuff, and I've used it for a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Besides, one of my favorite videos, Ron, is the one that you're showing on the screen now in the upper right hand corner is the Immortan Joe symbol plasma cut. This is a very short video. It's only 2 minutes and 20 seconds long.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was going to mention earlier when we were discussing some things is how students have become so used to having high-tech tools around all the time that they expect to see 3D printers and laser cutters and stuff like that all the time. Now, I am using a plasma cutter here, and that's, I guess, a high-tech tool in a sense, but it's not CNC. It's not a CNC machine. And in this video, like I said, it's only 2 minutes long. I'm showing them that with the right technique and a little practice, you can cut things out that are very useful and practical by hand cutting them. And the artwork for this, I didn't draw this out. I found an image on the web, and I enlarged it. I printed it out, and then I cut it out and used it as a template for this.
Looks like the steering wheel from Mad Max.
Well, it's incorporated into the steering wheels in Fury Road, and that's where the symbol is really from. It's from Fury Road. I mentioned that in here. And this is a piece of stainless steel, and I explained a little bit of the technical aspect of trying to cut stuff out of stainless steel, but it's not extensive. Like I said, it's a short video.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it's been successful. A lot of students have commented about it. My point, though, here is that you don't need a CNC plasma table to cut stuff out, and you don't necessarily need to have, an expensive template. I mean, you can use something like masonite or thin plywood, draw something out, cut it out, and then use the plasma cutter around it. It's not going to last that long because it's wood and it's going to burn, but it works. And for what this is good enough. And
Yeah.
The students have done very, very creative things when I explain to them that there's so much you can do without having a $75,000 laser cutter or a $25,000 CNC plasma table. There's an awful lot you can do if you just build up your skills and don't be afraid to try stuff. Just experiment.
Cool.
Just experiment.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering if other shop teachers have done videos like this. I think these are very valuable. Tim, have you done any how to hook up to your chuck and type of thing? Student straightforward stuff.
I have not. I think part of it is more or less confidence on my end. I have to build up the confidence enough to do it, and
that's understandable.
Having the right tools, having the right setup, having the right, production elements, if you will, to do that. But I haven't really. I mean, I guess with COVID now, I've had a need, but I haven't really had a need. And
okay.
I almost do feel it's a confidence thing because, you don't want to be that guy that puts this video up on YouTube and then get torn apart for, something you said or something you set up, and you get the couch jockeys, and they're telling you, oh, you did it wrong. This is the wrong way to do it. My way's better. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you put it up there, I mean, if you make it private, then you're the only one that can see it. But I think from something that's very technical, I think the confidence part of that needs to be there.
It's understandable. It's understandable.
And that's why if you look at my YouTube, there's really nothing of me doing anything. It's either the kids processing something, or it's more raw footage, if you will, or just miscellaneous stuff that I've recorded. And to me, that's okay. But like I said, it's a confidence thing to get me up there.
Yeah, I 100% understand. This is an example of me, like, literally, I'm too frustrated with, like, explaining how to use this shear machine over and over again. So this is like, literally, I just hand them the phone, and that's like not the best way to do it. But I'm just like, all right, take the phone, and I'm like, all right, hey, this is the thing we're gonna do. Da 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 da. I'm like, all right, this is basically it. Grab your, here's, and I mark it, and I'm like, all right, use this, use that, and believe it or not, it kind of works. You don't really need much. What I was surprised is actually this kid did follow what I was doing. I don't even remember who recorded this, and what's good is that, like, it works. You can kind of, and like, a lot of times, sometimes they'll screw up the head space, like up here. You see how it's tight, but sometimes they'll screw that up. The whole video will be here, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me! Like, down here, So at least they're, I show them, all right, get it to touch, and I explain it, and then I hit the thing. So it's if I waited for it to be perfect, I would never have done it, and this saved me a ton of time.
Ron, I was going to say, for me, it's always been about, like, scripting out what I want to say first before I make a video, because I'm just afraid I'm going to miss something, because I think it's in our nature to assume the kids understand what we're talking about. Yeah. So I just think, I think of it from, from the very minute details, like, okay, well, this is a pencil. Okay, and then I might even give them a little history about the pencil. And this is how, when you're drawing something, you should be holding the pencil. It doesn't mean that you can't hold it a different way, but to get the most effect out of certain things, this is the way you do it, right? And then a T-square or a triangle. I mean, because we do a lot of manual drafting and drawing tools first before we get into CAD and computer-aided industrial design and that stuff. And just because I know that kids get so frustrated, a kid sawing with an X-Acto knife a piece of cardboard, like literally using it as a saw. And I know Mark's laughing because he knows. It's just like, oh my good God,
Well, I have students that use the file and they just run it backwards. They just go like this on it.
Yeah.
That they're only touching the material on the backstroke, and I'm like, that doesn't work that way, Yeah. When we were in person, I would have them file, and I would teach them how to file, and I would teach them how to use the hacksaw, and all these very basic things that I talked about earlier that a lot of students just have no inherent knowledge of, because they never cut a piece of wood that they got from the construction site down the street and try to make something out of it. But I wanted to comment, if I could, for a second, to Tim. I totally can relate to your trepidation about putting yourself on the camera and running the risk of being criticized unfairly or even fairly. It's hard to take people saying negative things about what you've done, especially when you've put so much work into it, and it represents a body of work that you've developed over a long period of time. But somebody that I'm a huge fan of, and some of you maybe are aware of this guy, Tim Hunkin from England. He used to host a show with Rex Garrett called The Secret Life of Machines, and it was originally aired in the 90s, I believe it was. I think the mid 90s or early 90s, and then it got picked up by American television. It was a BBC program, and this guy's my hero. He really is in so many different ways. And one of the things that's really nice is that in the episodes of the TV show, they make mistakes, and in fact, he has re-released restored versions of the TV shows of many of the different episodes. And at the end of these newer versions, these cleaned up versions, he does a little talk about like what went wrong and what was fun, and things he was disappointed in. My point is that it's never perfect. And he now has a series called The Secret Life of Components, which has been filmed recently. He's a much older man than he is here in this video. And, he talks about, oh, well, there were comments that I miscategorized this, or I didn't explain this thoroughly, or I had a fact incorrect. And he admits to that. And it's not because he's not capable. This is a Cambridge University educated mechanical engineer. And he's also an artist and a cartoonist. And, he's been very successful. And he works for a number of museums developing displays. And
Those are
also
hand pump vacuums.
Yeah, these are all early vacuums that he's
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's so cool.
Yeah. Some of these things are just wacky machines.
Look at those chops, baby.
I like them.
Yeah.
I like them.
He absolutely looks quite British. But he's wonderful. And I don't know, Ron, if you can if you can go back a second on the videos and grab a couple of seconds of one of the new ones.
From his channel?
Yeah, if you look on the right and you scroll down, there's one called Connectors.
Here's everything.
Okay.
Mark, though, but does that make, like you said, that trepidation, does it make, just say myself or somebody that is, I guess, nervous about doing that, I guess, a lower level instructor, if you will?
No, not at all.
Makes
No,
it
not at
human.
all. Not at all.
Yeah, it's
no, I think that doesn't that's kind of my point of what I said. I mean, this guy is a Cambridge University educated mechanical engineer, so he really knows what he's talking about. But nobody knows everything, and I tell my students that. I tell my students all the time. I said, I don't know everything. I don't know everything about anything. None of us do. And I think if you're a good student, you're always open to learning new things. If you're a good educator, you're always open to learning new things. I'm constantly learning new things. That's part of the reason why I bought this microscope. I'm always buying new stuff. Ron teases me. He says, "Oh, you're the guy that has everything." And
no, I do that. I have everything.
I have everything. Yes, there's a particular reference to that, but no, I don't think it diminishes the validity of explaining things to people. I mean, for all of the things that you might think are not correct in a video that you see and fear you would make those same mistakes, there are a million videos out there where people are absolute buffoons talking about the same stuff and making horrible mistakes, and in my opinion setting a terrible example for anyone that's watching the video. And I say to my students,
doesn't even have the motor's not even mounted on this thing. He doesn't care.
Yeah, well, he's very loose about doing things, and he's not afraid. And he's admitted that he takes chances with things. He does things sometimes a little recklessly, and that's just his own. But he's not offering it as a tutorial for someone to do anything. You can see from the video here, which is current.
He doesn't even. That's not even mounted.
Yeah, but he's got a couple of metal blocks around it.
So I don't care. I'm just
like a rock.
That's good enough. That's good enough.
That's Ron style right there.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't care.
Clamp it down. Why?
Yeah, it's fine.
But
you know what I would say? Oh, God. Oh, wow. What the hell is this?
It's a model. It's a giant switch that he made.
The fuck is this?
It's a contact switch that he made. And
that's amazing. Look how big it is.
Yeah, and it works. I mean, it's, you know, he uses it to demonstrate the how it works. So the spring causes the contact to snap quickly, therefore
mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. Reducing the
this
amount
is
of
awesome.
Reducing the arcing. And that's why switches are made the way that they are, because you want the contact and disconnect time to be very short. So the spring makes it snap. That's why your wall switches click when you flick them up and down. A good quality switch.
I learned so. I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah. So
cool.
You know, he's real. I love this guy. I think this guy does a great job with explaining things, and he's great with kids, and you know, he's very much sought after. He works with the Exploratorium in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
Also, he spends about 2 months a year in San Francisco. Yeah, and here he's talking about like why these switches, why do they run so slowly? You know,
it's like the British Bill Nye.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Cool. Now, I would say. Oh, go ahead.
You know what? You know, I just wanted to add one last thought. You know, for what Tim said earlier about, you know, having some trepidation about this, and I think Dave's point earlier that he may mentioned is definitely what I use to reduce my trepidation about making a video, and that is preparation. Even if you have to, scripting stuff. And you know, I helped Ron with a video. Do you have that video that you shot at my house?
Yeah.
And you know, here, you know, most of the time Ron is shooting kind of like shooting from the hip with his cell phone.
Yeah.
But he asked me to help him with a video that we shot at my place, and that was what was that? That was the galvanometer.
Yeah, here it is.
And you can see the look is somewhat different. I think this is your own.
Just to get it started.
Phone video.
Yeah.
And at some point, I don't know what happened here, or was I holding it, or was you doing? No,
that was just to get started, and then now it's actually on a tripod, and he's operating the focus, and
yeah,
like there's an actual plan now.
So, and I would stop Ron and say, "Oh, what about this?" Or "Did you talk about that?" And he'd be like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that." So it's really helpful to either have somebody else that's working with you or to have a script. I'm usually by myself. Ron doesn't help me with anything. He's just off running around doing something else and taking the bed off his pickup truck for no reason. And so I'm usually shooting stuff by myself. So my videos are very static. The camera's always sitting on a tripod. But, you know, hey, it's video, so you can always shoot stuff over again.
Oh, and then look, you can always just do B-roll. This is a B-roll situation coming up right now.
Yeah.
In like 10 seconds.
Yep.
See, here, I'm going to enter this thing. And what I found was there's no way to show that with the camera. So then later on, I just shot it with another handheld. Oh, I see. Yeah. Here I am doing it right now. But then later, it's edited in. See? I think it's coming up in a second.
Tim, I had a video, too. I shot the whole thing. And I hadn't edited it all together yet. And
there we go.
Yep,
there's the B-roll. That's
what you need. And I looked at the scenes I shot, and I was just like, "This is absolutely horrible." And I went back and I shot it over again. So, you know,
it's stressful. I gotta tell you, I remember during pandemic, I shot this like long thing where I had a top view, a side view, and a whole thing. I was gonna edit it all together. You know, the thing is, what works best. You got to work with what's best for you. But what works best for me is I'm not so much trying to nail down like the ultimate. I don't know if this helps, Tim. I'm not trying to nail down, and not just for Tim, anybody. I'm not trying to nail down the ultimate video. If you're doing that, you got to do what Mark's doing, where you like have a script and you have a good camera lens and you got a good mic and you got to do a lot of stuff, you know, and that's great. And I would need Mark's help or somebody that knows a lot about cameras more than I do to actually do that. I don't even own these cameras. You know, I have like a GoPro maybe. But what I do is, and what Tim does on a daily basis, which is, let me ask you this. Regularly, if someone asks you, let's say September, right? What's going to happen in September if it was normal? If it was normal, and you're going to do the lathe. I don't know if you do the lathe in September, maybe October, but let's just say, and the kids just crowd around you, and you're like, all right, look. The moment you go, okay, look, let me show you this thing, that when that happens, stop and give one of the kids your cell phone. That's the video for me. And then you don't have to worry about it because you're not really worried about the camera. You're just trying to deliver what you normally been delivering for the last 15 or 20 years, you know? So I don't know. Does that help at all?
No, I mean, that does help. I mean, I think that's a good approach, you know, because you're
I'm not talking to the camera. I'm talking to whoever's in the room, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and I think, you know, and ironically, I mean, I know you said 15, 20 years, but literally I've only been teaching in the wood shop 5 years, 6 years. So that's the other side of it. Not that, I mean, I'm not the end all be all, but.
No, your stuff's beautiful. Come on.
But the thing is, like, you know, that is a good approach where, you know, give the kids the camera, I guess, you know, and I would never would have thought of doing that.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, it wasn't so much to make videos, although, you know, you guys know I like doing this stuff, but it's not so much to be like on YouTube. It's like literally a time saver. It's so that you don't have to do it. You don't have to always teach the lesson. I'm like, oh, you want to learn the drill press? You never use a drill press? Okay, watch this. Email it to them. They watch it and they're like, okay, I know how to use it now. And I'm like, no, you don't. Let me see. And then there they are. They're like following the procedure. Because I'll on purpose break stuff and mess up in the video. And then that's actually helpful. Yeah. You know, like this video is terrible. Like you could see, I just threw the thing. I'm like, I don't know. I think we got to, you know, I don't know if you follow along here, but like I totally screwed this thing up. I had to rebuild it on the fly in front of the camera. I was like, okay, I'm going to try and make this thing. I had to like change it so many times. But that actually helped, you know. Here's my drill press video.
I mean, that is a good idea. I mean, just give the kids the camera and then go from there. I think that is a good approach. I mean, like I said, it's not something I ever thought about.
You know, another thing you can do too is that you can do voiceover on it. So if you do a video where you're talking on it, you know, your face isn't on the video, but you're talking over what you're doing. If you screw it up, you can always go back and just do a voiceover. The Immortan Joe plasma cutting video was all voiceover, and I don't do that.
Oh yeah,
I don't do that most of the time, and I didn't do it that time because I made mistakes. But it was far easier rather than trying to talk over the sound of the air shooting out of the nozzle and, you know, distracting myself from, you know, trying to cut this thing out. So that's another technique.
You know, Mark, you got a good radio voice though.
Right?
You do. You have that good voiceover.
Thank you.
Sound. You do. You just have that very calm, very collected. You just have the right radio voice for voiceovers. And
it always makes me laugh when people say that.
He does.
Ron's been saying that for a long time too. He's just like, oh, you've got the voice for it.
And he does voices and stuff.
In a world.
And
yeah,
that's right.
And the thing is, I was in radio.
Were you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's
and
great.
You have the voice. I mean, you have that voiceover sound, which is awesome.
Well, thank you.
You know, it's funny. We were talking about having experience of having to, you know, talk in front of the students and describe something. And, you know, I learned really early on in my career that you really have to kind of flesh out how professionally you're going to present the material. Because I remember doing a video, not a video, a presentation, live presentation about how to use the drill press. So, and of course, I've got teenagers, right? So mostly guys. So I'm like, well, okay, so you take the butt end of the bit and you insert it in the.
You're done right there.
The snickering, the laughing, and the cajoling. It just you have to really kind of censor yourself in a way, but also keep it professional without. And they were making me crack up. So
that's funny you say that, because the other day I was doing a demonstration on soldering, and I got 10 kids in the class, and I show them the wire cutters, and then I go out and I grab them, I show them the diagonal cutters, and I say that this is the wire cutter, this is a stripper, and I said, but you got to remember, these are called diagonal cutters. Well, today, kid walks up to me and goes, "Yo, Mr. Z, where are the dikes at?" And I said,
right.
I said, that's good you call them dikes, because that's like the term, like that's like the right term for them.
Old school.
Yeah, that is.
And I'm like, yep. I can't call them dikes in a class full of 10 males.
Yeah, nah.
So what am I going to say? I'm doing an electrical lesson talking about strippers and dikes.
They'll remember it. They will share that with their parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yo, my teacher's talking about dikes today.
Try saying caulk or caulk gun all day.
Oh my God.
Well, when you're working on the metal lathe and you're facing apart, you have to center the tool so that it cuts all the way to the dead center. And if the tool is too high or the tool is too low, you end up leaving a nub in the middle of it. And I used to say it leaves a little tit in the center. And of course, the class just fell apart. And that was the end of that. So then I was like, oh, okay. And then I think at one point I called it a nipple, which was just as bad.
Yeah, nipple is not good.
No, that's not good.
I've used that term on the wood lathe, because it's like it's that thing in the center you can't get rid of. I says you got to get rid of that nipple, and you're like, oh man, I just said nipple in class.
That's and that's the
other thing.
That's the end.
It's
so now I go to protrusions. And, all kinds of ways to just avoid any kind of double entendres and or single entendres.
Oh, my God.
It's just, And I'm also, Ron knows I'm very sarcastic. Dave knows, geez, I mean, we laugh each other silly talking about stuff. And, I'm very sarcastic. And, I'm very easygoing with the students in the class. And sometimes, things slip out. And I'm like, oh crap, I shouldn't have said that. So I have to be careful about what I say, because, we're in an environment where, there's a good possibility that you say the wrong thing and somebody's going to be offended, and there was no intent behind it, and there was no insult intended, but, it's just the nature of things now.
Or it creates an opportunity for tomfoolery, hijinks, and shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, there you go.
My favorite word. Thing is,
I use the example as if, of course we're a family in the room, and by the time you're 120 days into the school year, you pretty much know the overall temperature of the room.
Sure.
I said, but like if I started talking about dikes and strippers, and somebody walked by the room,
oh yeah,
and the door was open, 98% of the time, it's not going to be the person in the room that's going to report you. Right. It's that miscellaneous person that walks by and says, I heard a teacher talking about dikes, strippers, and nipples, and then that's what I get. And then that's what I get worried about. It's that random person that, so, you got to eliminate that terminology as best you can.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if the 2-drink minimum wasn't added into that equation, you'd be okay.
Tim, please report to the superintendent's office. Tim, report to the superintendent's office.
Well, what I do now.
See, I let those words stay in there, so because it grabs the kids' attentions and they remember. I say, screw it. Actually, I say screw it and nail it. In my
Well,
joke.
I cannot
yeah.
believe what
Caulk
I
it,
get away
cut the
with.
tip. Yeah,
with the caulk.
with the caulk. As soon as like, and I ask him who wants to be the caulk master, and then I just let him go. And
Say,
you know
why
what?
fight
And then
it?
yeah,
Dave,
why fight it? It's gonna happen because here's the thing: those kids are gonna say way more rated R stuff than me making or letting them say caulk or nailing it, screwing it.
That's true.
Wood. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
get around it, and it's part
Yeah.
of it. But the thing
Well,
is,
it
then
is-
they remember.
It
Yep.
is part of it. It is part of it, and it is, and that's why I said you got to read the temperature of the room. I mean, that's the other
Yes.
thing too. So,
Yeah.
you got to
I
know what
agree.
your surroundings are.
Dave, how do you say? How do they say caulk in Boston?
I won't there. Put it this way. They say, instead of gorgeous, they say everything is gorgeous.
Yeah. That's funny.
But I mean, yeah, it's definitely, that's the other thing is the accents.
And I have a lot of girls in my class too, so that makes it
Sure.
doubly important to watch what you're saying. At the same time, when I get to know the students in the class, it can get a little salty at times, and I think it disarms them and it makes me look less of a stiff, because they look at me and they're like, yes, Mr. Balzarette, and I'm like, all right, as you were. It's just and it relaxes them a little bit. I believe in having the classroom environment, regardless of what I'm teaching, whether it's math or welding, that the students are relaxed, because I don't think nobody performs well when they're under a lot of tension.
I use a megaphone. Is that
I have
okay?
one too. I have a megaphone too. I will not ruin my voice yelling
I'm
over
done
a
with
room
that.
full of machinery.
Yeah.
I've got
I
6
literally-
milling machines and 4 lathes running, and then somebody's plasma cutting with the air. I'm not going to yell over that. So,
Yeah, I used this one. I bought it on Amazon. It was $20. It was like one of the best things I ever did. Here you go. You just get one of these.
yeah, that's what I have. That's what I have.
Yeah.
The
I'm
cheap
like,
one.
all right, listen up. And they enjoy it because they know that they're yelling too much. And I used to be like, okay, quiet down. You guys got to be quiet. Yeah, okay.
Throw that project in the garbage.
I just use my best Lee Ermey and I go, Jesus, hey, Christ, smile.
That's right.
I wanted to show you this before I forgot. When I make the videos, you just make them like really stupid dumb. Like it's a drill press.
Oh.
There you go. You just got to make it like really obvious, even with the diagonal cutters, because it's a diagonal. That's funny. Yeah, you could just the same way you talk to the kids, you could just have someone record that. And the problem is that actually, you know what, you'd be surprised, speaking of being quiet and loud in the class, when you're recording, they respect that. I have no idea why. But I'm like, all right, quiet on the set, and they quiet, it's gone. There's nothing. The whole class, they're paying attention. So the video camera, for some reason, does something. They're paying attention because it's live. I don't know. I don't get it.
I'm letting the kids run the TikTok account next year.
Oh hell yeah, yeah. We got to
because I don't get TikTok. I don't understand it. Like Instagram, I'm good, but TikTok, so they're pros at it. So
yeah,
I will give them my phone. I will post, but they get to do and part of their thing is part of it has to not just be. I mean, it could be silly and fun. I'm fine with that, but at the same time, also they got to talk. It has to provide some content or something, or if they're showing a tip or a trick or whatever. Like I'll keep it pretty loose. It doesn't have to be real stiff and I'll make it. It's all for them, but yeah, they're getting full reign on the TikTok producing. I suppose I'll still control the publishing part, but.
I just thought of something that I wanted to bring up quickly, and that is that I have been working on creating QR codes that I can stick right to the front of my machines.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
And the students can scan that in real time while they're in the shop. And if they don't remember something, they can just scan the QR code and it pulls up my video explaining how to do whatever it is they were looking to do. And even recently, I've had my students in class with their iPads watching my videos in preparation of doing an operation on the machine. So that's been very helpful. And I was really glad to see them doing that. You know, I'm kind of like, don't be on your cell phone in shop. Pay attention to what you're doing. This equipment is potentially hazardous. It can take your fingers off. It can cut you badly. You can really be injured. So pay attention and don't be distracted. But at the same time, the students have been very respectful of utilizing it at the appropriate time. And just the other day, today's what, Wednesday? I think it was Monday. The students were actually referencing the videos that I had posted, and I don't have the QR codes up yet, but I'm thinking, that's the perfect thing. I mean, somebody comes in, especially during regular semester times, not this whole COVID thing where they're not allowed to be, there's no open lab times. They have to be there with me, but normally we have a lot of open lab time. And there isn't necessarily someone there that can teach them how to do something. There's a lab assistant there, of course, all the time for safety, and keep the place from getting out of hand. But they're not necessarily qualified to teach all of the different skills and the operations of all the machines. So I'm thinking the QR code where they can just like, oh, I forget how that end mill gets mounted. Is it going to drill chuck or a collet? And they can pull up the video, and it's right there. They don't even have to access. The college has very good Wi-Fi, so they don't have to access their computers. They don't have to go through all of that. So I think that's a good way of using the videos. I think that
is pretty good.
That's all.
Yeah, that is a pretty good way. Well, we can hang out, but I think we could end the recording here. Unless there's anything else you want to add about. I think the QR code is a good idea. I have a few of them, but I never followed up with all of them, and there should be like a series. All right. Well, we usually hang out for a bit afterwards, just being casual. But yeah, that's why we always try to end the recording. So Wednesday nights, actually, speaking of the calendar and whatnot, I think we have Justin Dietrich coming up. He's super popular on Instagram. Everybody kind of knows him. He's going to be not next week. I think the week after. I can't remember. We might have Todd Menadier. He does a solar program, and there's like a scholarship attached to it coming up. And then there's also geez, I'm so sorry. I forgot her name. Is Tiffany. Tiffany is a welder, professional welder, but she teaches at a college or a trade school in California. And she's on there, and she does something called the Women's Welding Syndicate. So we got a whole bunch of guests coming up, and I realized that the best way to get the guests is to go through the Instagram and just say, hey, you guys, I like when people share stuff and whatnot. So, hey, do you want to be on the show? Da, da, da. And then the other way is if people are winning awards and they want to talk about why they won the award, like Matt, you were running the workshop or your 16, the Sweet 16. That was a great episode because we've got in depth, And then, and also Kirk and David, feel free if you ever want to do a shop tour. We're always down with that. And then we got our regulars, people come in, Tim, Duke, Matt, and, there's a couple others that are here. Oh, where's Nick? And, I don't know. And then there's also a guy in Australia that used to be here all the time. So, and it depends. There's a couple other people that pop in. So we're gonna have more things going on. I love this show because it really is a good time to catch up with and I get ideas. And then it's funny because some of the stuff I already know what the guest is gonna say, and then when we do the show, turns out I learned something new. So I didn't know Mark was messing around with a trinocular. This is serious.
This is a new word day for you.
It's just I just get roasted. I think it's funny. So, all right, well, cool. So we'll end the recording here, and we'll hang out for a bit.
I think we should
All right.
have I think we should have a segment that says Ron's new word for the day. This week was trinocular.
Yeah.